Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. So I interviewed a lawyer in Toronto a little while ago, and it's interesting because she's been advertising herself on TikTok and Instagram, along with several other female lawyers across North America. And so I followed someone else that she was connecting. It turned out to be someone by the name of, goes by the name of Lawyer Kelly. I didn't know who Lawyer Kelly was, but I started watching some of her Instagram videos, and they were fascinating. What she does is almost every day she posts an Instagram video that is a recommendation for how to deal with divorce and marriage and things like that. And I found, number one, the suggestions really quite fascinating, but number two, the technique of advertising via Instagram videos fascinating. Now I understand that they really got to start on TikTok, and TikTok is going crazy. And so Lawyer Kelly, welcome to my show. How are you?
Thank you, Brian. I'm great. Thank you for having me on your show.
So let's start at the top. What is your real name and what type of legal work do you do?
So my name is Kelly Chang Rickert, and I am a family law attorney in Los Angeles.
And why did you come to advertise on TikTok and on Instagram videos?
You know, it's funny, the word advertising. I joined TikTok just as a joke because I have a 12-year-old and they're all on it. So it's just a fun app to explore my creative side. But yeah, I think it's taken off, and now a lot of professionals are using it to advertise their business, but it was never the intent of mine to go on there to advertise.
So your 12-year-old motivated you to get on?
Yes.
And I have not, I have to admit, gone back right to the beginning of your list, and I haven't even looked at TikTok. So I'm not sure if all of the TikTok videos show up on the Instagram. It's Reels or something like that you use on Instagram. What was the beginning? In the beginning, were they lawyer related, or how did they get started? How did you get started?
So when you first start on TikTok, everyone tells you in order to grow, you need to select a niche. So, you know, I'm a family law attorney. I have been for 21 years. So my niche would be family law. So I started out making this video about, congratulations, you're getting married, get a prenup. And it really took off. It was just one of those really fast paced, a lot of text, and it took off. And then I got like 10,000 followers really quick in a week. And then pretty soon I had 100,000, then 200,000, then 300,000. And I met a lot of great lawyers along the way. And yeah, so it became this really fun journey during quarantine because I had nothing to do except make videos.
And so you've only been doing this for what, during COVID-19 quarantine? So for less than a year?
Yes. Yeah. So the first video I posted was right before we went into lockdown.
Fantastic. And do you get business out of it?
Surprisingly, I get a ton of business on TikTok.
You get business on TikTok. How many people are divorcing on TikTok?
Yeah, a lot apparently. So I'll get people calling for prenups. So I've gotten several prenups on TikTok, and I've gotten several clients who hired me for their divorce cases. And a lot of them call from out of state. So I've had to refer cases to my friends from all over the world because people are calling me, even though I can only practice in LA. And yeah, so it's been very fruitful.
Which must be great, number one, for you giving referrals to other people and then getting referrals back.
You know, it's karma. I don't really take anything for referrals. If I trust somebody, I'll just refer them out and trust that it's in the universe and it'll come back to me.
But, you know, I connected up with you because of a litigation lawyer here in Toronto that I met and interviewed, and she was following you and promoting you, and you were following her and promoting her. So the karma must work.
Yeah, I love Ellie. I ended up writing a children's book, you know, for parents that are divorcing, how to tell their children about divorce. And Ellie was one of my first purchasers of the book. She bought it, made a little TikTok, and then uploaded it on Instagram. So, you know, it's women supporting women.
Fantastic.
I'm a huge fan of hers.
So what are the rules for a good TikTok or Instagram video? How long? What do you say? Is it, is it text? Is it music? Is it verbal? Give us some rules.
You know, I think the shorter, the better. Right now, people's attention span is about 7 seconds. So the shorter you can get, the better. I think TikToks are usually 15 seconds or 1 minute long. I try to stick to the 15-second mark.
15
the quicker you can make the quicker you can make your point, the quicker you can catch them and reel them in and let them go, the better it is for you. So stay away from long videos.
My hour-long radio show's got no chance.
Not for 12-year-olds.
But for divorcees, you're not appealing to 12-year-olds.
I'm appealing to 12-year-olds who are stuck in a divorce and they want to talk about it. Or,
really? So do you think that the 12-year-olds are watching the TikTok, watching you, and then taking it to their mom and dad?
Well, sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes they will. So sometimes I'll have like, my niece referred you because she saw you on TikTok, or, my sister was on TikTok and she saw you. So, I'll get various degrees of people coming to me. I think primarily though, I think children find me comforting because I'll be talking about best interests of the children. Because typically in a divorce, it's mom versus dad and it's all fighting and the kids are left out. And quite truly, they're the only victims. So they'll be on my feed saying, I never got a chance. I hate going back and forth. My parents don't even care about me. They just want to win. It's really sad. So I really try to do videos focused on the best interest of children and what that means. It doesn't mean father's rights, mother's rights. Everybody's pissed off in family court because if you have to be there, you're already pissed off. You're not going to win. So I try to focus on the children and provide a safe space for them to connect and talk to each other.
We're chatting to Lawyer Kelly, who has an Instagram account, Lawyer Kelly, and a TikTok. Is the TikTok account also Lawyer Kelly?
Yep, I'm Lawyer Kelly everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, LinkedIn.
I only see you on Instagram. I'll have to check out some of your other sources. We're going to take a break and come back more with Lawyer Kelly and go through some of her recommendations that are really, I think, she says for the benefit of the children, but also really quite interesting. I've enjoyed reading them. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're chatting with someone who I got connected with through Instagram out of Los Angeles, California, a family law lawyer by the name of Lawyer Kelly, who has an Instagram, a TikTok, a Snapchat, a Facebook, a Twitter account, all Lawyer Kelly. And what she does, and I got fascinated by it, every day she posts a different post, what do you call it, IGTV video or a TikTok posting about something to do with divorce and family law. And they've been really good. I've been interested in them and I've really quite enjoyed them. So let's, Lawyer Kelly, let's go back through some of your ideas on divorce. You were saying that you think that that it's a major decision, obviously, to divorce, and often for the benefit not of the children. And so therefore you try to represent or at least, err on the side of the children. Is that sort of where you come from?
Yes, I think the only victims in a divorce are children. I try to focus on adulting 101. So basically, I think divorce is the worst thing that could probably happen to you other than death of a loved one. And I think when you're in it, you forget how to be an adult. You forget how to be mature. And you start doing things like bad mouthing and lying and all these awful things that you don't want to be, and you don't want to be stuck there. So I think a lot of my TikToks focus on being a good person and being an adult.
Being a good person and an adult. And give me some of the examples of what sort of goes wrong that you need to be an adult on.
So for example, I don't know if you saw this TikTok, but I gave an example that a lot of times you get a divorce and the other side, just to spite you, will go to school and take your name off the school records. So I'll get a phone call from a very frantic client.
Take your name off the school records. How do you do that?
So they basically add their new spouse, so I'll get a frantic client saying, that bastard, he added his new wife as the contact at school and I'm the mother. So, they'll be frantic. I want to file for contempt. I want to nail it to him. I want more money, et cetera, et cetera. So I basically said, instead of calling your lawyer and driving up your legal fees, because, my job is practicing law and not babysitting, you should just call the school, send them a copy of your joint custody order, explain that you are the mother and you are to be put back as the contact, and remove the stepmother as the contact because she is not the mother. Do it on your own. The school will put you back. Note that your ex did this. Problem solved. So, a lot of my videos talk about how to problem solve without involving lawyers. Because a lot of times family law attorneys deal with babysitting. We just babysit. And it's very frustrating because that's not what we went to law school to do. I didn't go to law school to fight over cleaning supplies.
I found another one that you posted really quite interesting, marriage tips. I thought it was interesting that a divorce lawyer would be providing marriage tips.
Well, I think these days everybody's always pissed off at each other. And the first thing they think is we're going to get a divorce. And so they think divorce is the answer. And so I want to bring it home to these people that divorce is not the answer. It should be your last resort. You should be working on your marriage, especially if you have kids. I understand sometimes that's not possible. Or if you have two people that agreeably want to leave each other, fine. But if you have one person that wants out, it's going to suck if the other person doesn't,
I thought number one was interesting. Never badmouth your spouse. But number two, I found kind of interesting. Assume your spouse is copied on all your texts and emails.
Yes, that's very important. A lot of times you're doing the little flirtatious thing that leads to something else, So you want to assume that your texts are being read and you're on your best terms. These days, we're all in very dangerous territory. We have these, you can communicate with anybody. And it all just starts with a little joke, a little flirt, before long, you're having an affair and leaving the marriage. So you just have to be very careful what you're doing every day and to make sure that your spouse knows and that you're always committed to your spouse.
Now, do people open each other's mails? I don't think so. So why do they open up each other's emails and texts?
You're not opening up your spouse's text. You're just assuming that he's being copied so that you're behaving. Because psychologically, if somebody else is reading, you should be on better behavior.
Oh, okay. And then the next one I found kind of interesting. Love is a verb. Keep doing it.
Yes. So it's an active verb. My mom used to say, marriage is like watering plants. You can't just stop watering it. Every single day, you got to water your marriage. It's a verb. Keep doing it.
Well, there's an old parable about too many people love a flower, but they want to pick it. And as soon as you pick it, it dies. And if you really love a flower, what you want to do is water it and help it grow.
That's right. It's more of a selfless thing instead of selfish because you want to pick it, but the flower needs to be watered.
Number 4, be careful what you share on social media.
That's always 101. You don't know how many Facebook posts get used in divorce papers.
You're kidding. Facebook posts get used in divorce papers.
A few years ago, I think it was the AAML, which is the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers. They cited Facebook as like the number one cited source as the reason for divorce.
Oh my God, really? I've had, negative comments about you like that girl's post.
Yep. It goes from that to like messaging. I had a guy come to me, 65-year marriage. He reconnected with his high school sweetheart on Facebook, and he was prepared to leave his 65-year marriage to go be with the girl on Facebook. I had to knock some sense into him. I was like, what are you doing? You have 5 kids, like 15 grandkids, and you're going to leave for some dream? Because that's the thing. These screens make you think that you know the person, but you really don't. It's just Facebook. Everything on Instagram and everything on social media is absolutely fake. It's not what marriages are built on.
I love number 5, and I agree with it completely. Turn off your phone during dinner.
Yep, all the time. You should not be on your phone during dinner.
I got to tell you how many people I see sitting there on their phone communicating with other people when they're not communicating with the person right across from them.
Yeah, it's very disrespectful, and it's not a good marriage. You can't do that.
But then you're a divorce lawyer and you make money out of divorce, and you're saying in number 6, divorce is never an option. Choose marriage always.
So there's like a reverse psychology going on. I think people trust people that make decisions that are good for them. So when you see these lawyers out there, like I've seen these lawyers that are like preaching, I can't wait till quarantine because there's going to be so many divorces. I don't think those are the people that clients want to hire. I think they want to hire somebody that really wants what's good for them. And in general, having an intact marriage where you're happy is better than having a divorce, which is full of toxic emotions. I mean, obviously, if you two separate on good terms and you both agree that it should be over, then it shouldn't be as toxic as these things that you see on Jerry Springer.
Then you had an interesting post about your divorcing war stories. Can you tell us some of those?
Which post was that?
It's after court, I went home because you had 101 temperature.
Oh, that was when I had my appendix burst. So basically I was arguing on a burst appendix for 2 days, and I ended up going to the hospital after I won 2 court appearances. So that was more like my family law war stories. I've practiced law for 21 years. I've gotten death threats. I've had clients show up and I've had my tires slashed. I've had tons of bad things happen because these people cannot be adults.
And then you talk a lot about people who want sole custody and that's not the right solution. Tell us about that.
So in general, the law says that it's in the best interest of a child to have continuing and frequent contact with both parents at the separation. You're divorcing your spouse, but your children aren't divorcing you. So a lot of people don't understand that. So generally, it is in the best interest of a child to continue to have mom and dad. But of course, there are exceptions. Obviously, if one person leaves and you're just left with the child, you have no choice because you have sole custody. The person is a deadbeat. Or somebody's in prison or somebody moves, there are exceptions. But generally, if both parties want to be with the child, then it should be some sort of shared custody plan. It should not be sole.
Now, you talked about how kids don't want to go back and forth. What's your recommendation on that?
So some kids adapt better than others. And I think for the kids that have problems adjusting well to two households, you really need to listen to them and see what they want. Sometimes you'll have a parent that's like hell bent on getting 50-50 and they don't give a crap what the child wants. That's the situation that I really want people to avoid because it's not in the child's best interest. If you see that your child is not sleeping or has dark circles or their grades are dropping and they just can't go back and forth all the time, maybe you should think about it. Maybe you should have a more stable home. It's all situation by situation. There's no hard and fast rules.
Does it ever work where the kids stay in one house and the two different parents come and leave?
Yeah, that's called bird nesting. So sometimes you'll have the family home and the children always live there. And then you'll have father come when it's his time, mother come when it's her time. But bird nesting can only work if you have enough to support 3 residences, because basically you got to support the family home and then father has to have a house and then mother has to have a house. So you're paying for 3 households. It's very expensive, but I have seen it done.
Do you recommend it?
Sounds if you can afford it, yeah.
Best for the kids.
If you can afford it and you can keep the kids in one house while both of you have separate residences, by all means do it. If you can afford it and you think it's in the best interest of your children, do it.
What recommendations do you give about introducing new partners to a divorced family?
So I don't think you should introduce any new partners while the divorce is pending. I always think that there needs to be finality before you introduce somebody new. Once the divorce is final and you get to a committed place where the child, you can do the introduction, you would do that. What you want to avoid is always exposing your children to new partners. So, there have been clients who've had like 6, 7, 8, 9 new girlfriends or boyfriends. It's very disturbing to a young child to see so many different men and women come in and out of their lives.
They had another one that I find kind of interesting. It was talking about sort of attitudes. And you went through a bunch of different comments that divorcing people typically make. I'm losing my tolerance. Oh, baby, can't you see? Please open your eyes. And then you say, realize therapy is cheaper than me.
Oh, that's my rap. Yeah. So I did this family law rap battle where I basically rap my thoughts. I think a lot of misconception, a lot of people think that we're divorce therapists. So they'll come to me and they'll cry and they'll bitch about their spouse and they'll tell me they're a deadbeat and blah, 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 stop. To a divorce lawyer, it kind of falls on deaf ears because, I've heard it 6 trillion times before at 8 a.m. And then also, I'm not a therapist. Like, I don't psychologically know how to fix somebody's brokenness. What I know is how to navigate the legal system. And I am very compassionate, but, you have to understand, like, a divorce attorney's work is very complicated and legal. So if we're spending all these hours helping people do what therapy does, then we're not able to do our job. So it's like, how can I be a great divorce lawyer to you if I'm also being your therapist? And so basically I try to tell people, go to therapy, go figure out your little psychological mishaps over there. And when you come to me, you're in a better space for me to relay the law and how to apply it to you.
Now, do you recommend mediation or arbitration or negotiation or go to court?
Absolutely 100% mediation all the time. Because I do not think a stranger, which is the court, should have any say in how you run your family life. I think at all, if you can, hire a neutral divorce mediator, which is like a third party to help you work out your agreements. Somebody that's well versed in family law. That's better than both of you hiring lawyers to go at each other. It makes no sense.
And is that relative to family issues or asset issues or both?
Both.
Really? And
Yes.
you're in LA, and you made another interesting post that was about you get called by the media often to comment on celebrity divorces, and you say that you don't want to comment about rumors, but you end up providing some commentary because it's an example of how not to divorce.
Pretty much, yeah. Every single time there's a divorce in the news, I get called, and so I'll get to talk. I get to talk about celebrity divorce. It's so irritating because A, I think divorce should be private. And B, I don't think the general public should emulate what celebrities are doing, because celebrities have the money and resources to hire attorneys to go fight over their garage door openers, but the general public do not. So I think it's, if there's one thing celebrities can do better is work on their marriages better, because I think if celebrities worked on their marriage, the rest of us would have a shot. The problem is celebrities throw away marriages the way they throw away whatever money. So, it's really sad. Marriage should be one thing, but it's not.
What do you mean it should be one thing, but it's not?
Marriage should be forever and a commitment. But in today's world, marriage is viewed as a check mark. It's kind of like a thing that I did, been there, done that, and it's viewed as temporary until the next best thing comes along. So I think what used to be marriage, which is like a forever thing, you find your life partner, nobody knows what that means anymore. And I think everybody takes marriage too lightly, and everybody's filing for divorce at the drop of a hat. It's very sad.
That's interesting. You had an interesting video of a gentleman with both the wife and the ex-wife, and with the ex-wife, he gave her his jacket to them. I'm not sure whether it was cold or they were going over a puddle or what, I don't know. But then with the current wife, he takes off his shoes and gives the shoes to the current wife. What were you meaning by that video?
It was actually that he was giving his ex-wife his jacket and his shoes and all the monetary things. And then when it came to his current wife, he picked her up and protected her from the elements. So what I think the video is intending to say is that the ex-wife got all the money, but the current wife got all the love.
And
which would you rather have?
Exactly.
So I think you'll get half the population saying I'd rather have money because they're so jaded by love. But I think if you have, if you're romantic, you'll pick love. You'd rather have love over money. I don't know about LA though. We live in a very superficial town, so everybody here tends to want money.
You know what? This is very refreshing hearing from a divorce lawyer, a family law lawyer, that love is so important, and marriage should be forever. And too many people are divorcing just because they found something better. We're going to take a break and come back more with Laura Kelly in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're chatting with Lawyer Kelly, who is a lawyer in Los Angeles, who is a family law lawyer, a divorce lawyer. And I got to know her because she posts every day on social media different little vignettes, suggestions, TikTok things, or Instagram reels about divorce and life and what to do and what not to do. And I've found them fascinating and kind of interesting. For two reasons. Number one, because they're really interesting recommendations. And number two, it's a fascinating new way for her to advertise and promote and educate people about her business. And I think it's something that all of us should be learning from. You had another interesting one that I noticed, leading causes of divorce. And it was Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
So I am frequently asked by people, what do you think is the main cause of divorce? Is it infidelity? Is it money? You know what I'm seeing these days? It's lack of commitment and lack of attention. I see spouses nowadays that aren't even connecting. You go out to dinner and you see this couple and they're both staring at their phone. It's like, what are you doing? There's like no intimacy because people are deriving their kicks from this little thing. And there's no like connection anymore. So I made that video to show that these are the causes of divorce, and I listed every single social media medium. So I used TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. I'm like, these are the main causes of divorce. So that was my way of tongue in cheek saying, stop it. Pay attention to the most important thing in your life. It's your spouse and your family, not this. This is fake.
At least at dinner, for sure, get off of it.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Not when you're watching Lawyer Kelly and her reels.
Yeah, you can watch me.
Okay, so you mentioned infidelity. Can people get over infidelity?
I think so. A few years ago, I attended this marriage seminar, and in the seminar, it was said that at least 40% of marriages suffer some sort of infidelity, and
Really?
you can overcome it because it is actually a symptom. So basically, it's not like people are happy and somebody is unfaithful. It's usually there is a distance and then somebody cheats. So, the key isn't, the key is to avoid that distance that builds over time. The distance that is caused by things like this,
Right. Okay.
So
social media is number one. Infidelity is another. What are some of the other leading causes?
the number one is lack of commitment. So if you enter into a relationship, be it a marriage or a domestic partnership, whatever, if you are not committed, you're getting a divorce. You're on your way out. But you have, if you're committed to making it work, both of you, then you put in the effort, then you can work it out. But as soon as one person quits, it's over.
When people come see you, is it always too far gone?
No, it's not. I've had so many people come to me, pay for the initial consult. After my advice, they go home and they work on their marriage. And like inevitably 6 months later, they'll send me a card. Everything you did worked. My marriage is awesome. Thank you.
So it sounds like your initial consult is a therapy session, not a divorce session.
It is. And those are the best. So remember, I told you this guy, he was married for 65 years and he was going to leave his wife for some girl, high school sweetheart he met on Facebook. So after my consult, he went home, and about a year later, his wife calls me and said, the day that he came back from visiting you, the divorce lawyer, his demeanor changed and our marriage is stronger than ever. And she started crying. She was like, thank you so much. It was very hard. It was very like heartwarming to hear that I saved a marriage.
That's great. So let's say that didn't happen. And so the initial consult doesn't result in a reconciliation. Give us a quick summary of the steps that one goes through.
So if you are hell-bent on getting a divorce and you want to retain me to be your lawyer, then you would pay my retainer fee, which is anywhere between $10,000 to $25,000 to get me on board. And then I'll come in as your lawyer and I will finish the divorce for you. So that would be the next step. It's not rocket science. I think one thing people are confused about is that they think that there are flat fees. So it's like, oh, the $10,000, that's it. No, $10,000 is an initial retainer for which I bill against. So depending how much work is done, you're going to have to keep replenishing your account. So it's like a never ending replenishment. It doesn't just stop.
And can you give us a sort of an average cost of a divorce in LA?
It runs the gamut. It could be as cheap as $5,000 if both parties are agreeable and I just draft it, to like $10 million, because that's the case that I had that lasted 13 years.
13 years. What would last 13 years?
Very angry woman.
Most divorces.
A very angry and spiteful woman that sued my client for everything under the sun. So yeah, at the time he hired me, I think the kids were 3 and 6. By the time the divorce was finished, the kids were like 19 and 22. So yeah, it was a very long divorce.
And then you had another post about mediation, and that a lot of people during mediation were talking about sexual things.
Yeah. So that was the video I did using some different soundtrack. In mediation, they'll start like quarreling, and just they start like yelling at each other, talking about each other's sexual proclivities and stuff like that. You dress up like a girl. Well, you wore men's underwear. Well, you crapped on the bed. All this intimate stuff that I do not want to know, but yet I'm subjected to every single day.
And then someone criticized a brother being a pervert and a sister being something else.
Yeah,
Does that really happen?
it does.
In mediation, in front of the mediator.
I hear lots of random things. Every single day I hear random things about people's marriages that I don't want to know, and yet I'm subjected to.
And then you had an inspirational quote, and I love this after I read a whole bunch of your different posts. And it was, I love when people that have been through hell walk out of the flames carrying buckets of water for those still consumed by the fire.
Yeah. So I think that was me saying, you will get these women, okay, who have been stay-at-home moms and they don't have one penny to their name, and they will get out of an abusive marriage and they will go on to get degrees to better themselves and not ask for one dime. And then you'll get these self-entitled, extremely snooty other people that will be getting $38,000 a month in spousal support, and that's still not enough for them because they're entitled to more. And so my point is, be the one that comes out of the fire with water for those people still so consumed by their hateful, vengeful selves. You know, it's the self-entitlement. So you'll have these people that they leave without a dime, abusive relationship. They leave and they end up supporting their children. And then you will have these other people that get $50,000 a month in support, and they're bitching about it because they can't live on $50,000 a month in LA. Don't be like that.
Another great post, going to court for custody. And you say that the judge doesn't care who's the better parent. It's the way it works.
Yeah. So I think there's this misconception that the better parent wins, and the better parent is the one that cooks better, the one that cares about housework, the one that doesn't have lice. You know, there's all these misconceptions of what a good parent is. But the truth is, the judge doesn't care if you feed your kids McDonald's. Okay. The judge does not care if your kids got lice. The judge's kids had lice once. The judge only cares that you love your child and you're willing to step up and want to be a part of their lives. So there, you know, custody isn't going to be granted to like some golden mom that wants to deprive the child from the dad. It's not, it doesn't work like that. So stop bad-mouthing each other because it doesn't work.
Yeah, another one on what to do when getting served with divorce papers. What do you do?
Call a lawyer. When you get served, there's deadlines. So you need to call a lawyer and hire one.
And if you're looking for sympathy, you'll find it between shit and syphilis in the dictionary. What did you mean by that?
That quote was written by David Sedaris. And I think the meaning of that quote is that I don't have any sympathy for you. If you're getting $50,000 a month in alimony and that's not enough for you, go cry somewhere else. You can find sympathy in the dictionary between shit and syphilis.
Then you also comment a lot about prenups. Tell us about prenups and why you think they're important.
So I think the number one reason I advocate for prenups is that I think you should be knowledgeable about money. You know, a lot of people get married and then suddenly they stick their head in the sand. Finances is not my responsibility. 20 years later, I don't know where the money is. I don't know what I have. I don't know if I'm on the house. That is your responsibility. Okay. Unless you have an agreement with your husband, which usually there is no agreement. But I think the purpose of a prenup is to get everybody on board with their finances. You know, everybody should have an expectation going into the marriage, whether you're going to stay at home or you're going to work. And if you're a stay at home, how are you going to be provided with the income if he leaves? These are things you need to talk about. So that's why I always advocate for prenups, because it starts that conversation about money, because it's really important.
I find that a lot of people don't think about prenups for the first marriage, but they start thinking about it pretty seriously for a second marriage. Is that?
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of reasons for that. But number one, your second marriage is indication that marriage may not work out. And so for the first time, they're like, what happens if it doesn't work out? So number one, you're thinking about that. And also the second reason people get prenups and second marriages is by then they have children. So they want to make sure that their children from a previous relationship are provided for, priority over the second spouse, you know, so things like that.
Any other things to include in a prenup?
Prenups usually govern financial stuff. So I think the two main things are community property, you know, have a waiver in there, and then what to do after the marriage regarding alimony, which is spousal support. You can waive it, you can limit it. So those are the two main things.
That is a fascinating other post. You copied someone's video that recommended going through the ceremony, but not turning in the certificate. And then you criticized that strategy. Tell me about that.
One, it's extremely fraudulent, to get married and then to try to convince the other person that you're married, but you're really not. I mean, then your whole marriage is built on a lie. And secondly, it doesn't work. The law protects what's known as a putative spouse. So if somebody in good faith entered into something that they thought was a marriage, the law is going to treat them like a spouse. So I was trying to dispel this jerk's advice. It's like, oh, don't really get married. Just pretend to marry them, but don't turn in the certificate. I'm like, A, that's a lie. And B, it doesn't work. I don't know why people are out there advocating crazy lies. I don't think relationship built on lies, these experts should not be out there advocating for that. Marriage is already fragile.
Start or before it even starts.
I
You
know.
talked about negotiating a prenup and you quoted Charlotte from Sex and the City. Why did you do that?
Because she was subjected to a prenup. So when she was marrying into this really rich Scottish family, the mother handed her a prenup. And at first she was like everybody else, insulted, but she managed to negotiate $1 million. And then her marriage ended in like 1 month. So she ended up getting the $1 million, which is way more than what she would have gotten without a prenup.
So she turned out to be a pretty good negotiator.
Oh yeah, because her marriage ended so quickly.
And the mother of the groom wasn't such a good negotiator.
Nope, her name was Bunny.
Do prenups hold up in court?
For the most part, yeah. If both of you are represented and it's drafted properly, it will hold up in court.
What's the difference between fault and no fault divorce?
Historically, a fault divorce regime means that you have to prove fault to get divorced. So in order for the divorce to be granted, you have to prove that somebody was beating you, cheating on you, insane. So it led to a crazy litany of people accusing people of beating them. So a lot of false accusations just to get a divorce. Judges don't want to deal with that. So they basically said, we don't care. As long as one person wants out, irreconcilable differences is all we need to know. So now you no longer have to prove fault to get a divorce. Every state is no fault. And
Ontario and Canada is no fault as well. And so yet people still think they got to come up with all these crazy reasons.
Not anymore. You can just say, we didn't get along.
What's parental gatekeeping?
Parental gatekeeping is when you have custody and you make up all sorts of reasons for the other side to not be able to see them. So you're keeping a gate on your child so the other person can't come through.
What are the top 3 things that piss you off as a divorce attorney?
I can't stand people using children like pawns. Pay your child support or you don't get to see my child. I hate that. Children are not property. 2 would be people that try to use lawyers as revenge. So, people that come to me and say, I'd rather pay you than my wife. I'm like, why? Why? And then number 3, I guess, would be people that just abuse the system. They manipulate, they lie, false accusations, just terrible people.
And then I had one that you really I didn't like at all, which is that even a 5-year age difference makes a couple 18% more likely to get divorced compared to a couple born on or around the same year.
So that's some sort of statistic I took off the internet. I'm not quite sure that that's true. I know plenty of marriages that have over 10 years of age difference that are working out perfectly.
Do you think that's different early on in life versus later on in life?
No, I think it matters more early on. So for instance, if you're a 90-year-old dating a 70-year-old, that's less of an age difference than a 30-year-old dating a 10-year-old. That sounds gross.
It's illegal, but no, but I do think percentages is actually better. But I know lots of people over, middle age, over 40 or something like that, where age differences are quite large and there isn't any problem. But an age difference in their 20s and 30s could be a significant difference, particularly if it's around childbearing years.
Yeah, well, that's because the issue of childbearing comes up, which is a big issue in a marriage. So that's another thing you should talk about before you enter into marriage, is whether you want kids or not, because that could effectively end a marriage.
And then there was another one that I thought was a little controversial. It's interesting to hear what you'll say about it. You talk about someone having an affair with a married man, and they wondered if they had any rights.
Oh, yes, the mistress question. So a lot of times you have like a mistress and they've been dating a guy that's married, and the guy will not leave his wife, and they want to know, do I have any rights?
And
usually no, unless you get pregnant, then you have child support. But other than getting pregnant, no, you don't have any rights as a mistress. Sorry.
But then you had another one where the ex-wife used the mistress to prove fraudulent use of monies or something like this.
So at the very beginning of my career, I represented this mistress because she was subpoenaed to a deposition. So basically, the wife attorney subpoenaed my client to testify to prove that the husband wasted, monies in breach of his fiduciary duty. So at the time that we attended the deposition, my client, the mistress, was already replaced by another mistress. So she was pissed off. So she actually testified for the wife and went through, she brought all the credit card statements, and they had it. And she was like, yeah, that's the Chanel watch he bought me. That's the Louis Vuitton bag he bought me. That's when we went to French Laundry, and she confirmed all the charges were on her.
You're also really good at finding quotes that you post that other people, a lot of times I find quotes posted and reposted by the, people over and over again, but you find different and interesting ones. And here's one that I loved. She's a badass with a good heart, soft but strong, unapologetic and honest. She's the type of woman you go to war beside, not against.
I like that one. I think that was posted, on Inauguration Day, because I was thrilled that we finally had a vice president that was female. So, that was for that. I find different quotes, and I like the quotes.
Your posts and quotes and reels are fascinating. We're going to take a break and come back with some concluding comments in just a minute. Stay with us. Well, we're back with lawyer Kelly, a family law lawyer from California, who's regaled us with a whole bunch of fascinating little tips and stories about divorce and prenups and therapeutic or therapy type recommendations in regards to putting our phones away and being committed and love is a verb and great stuff like that. Let me ask you a couple of final questions, lawyer Kelly. One that you had was, should I tell my kids that my spouse is cheating?
So I personally don't think you should tell them. I think if they're old enough, they already know, because children are very smart. And if they're too young, you shouldn't tell them anyway, because they don't understand what cheating is. I also don't think you should tell the children about cheating, because it tends to place blame. And when you place blame, the children feel stuck in the middle. So as a general rule, I don't think children should be involved in their parents' divorces. I think children should just be children.
You had a post that I thought was pretty impactful to conclude our conversation. And it was a 15-year-old art student, Demi Barnes, who designed a wedding dress of 1,500 divorce papers to bring awareness to the issue of people rushing into marriage and ending up in divorce. Do you think that's the big problem, that people are rushing into marriage? It's this check of a box that you talked about, and we all end up in divorce?
Absolutely. You know what? I did it. I met and married my husband within 3 weeks. So I definitely rushed into marriage, and I definitely tell people, do as I say, not as I do, because I got super lucky. Most people are not lucky.
When they
I
rush
think you
in.
should,
When they rush in.
Yes. I think that song, Fools Rush In, has got a point.
Do you recommend people live together, cohabitate?
That I don't. So there is studies that show that if you live together before marriage, your marriage is not as likely to work out. And I'm not sure why, but there are studies that correlate if you live together before, like kind of a trial phase. Maybe psychologically, it's like a trial phase instead of entering into a commitment.
And the commitment you think is so critically important?
I think so. I think for any marriage or relationship to last, there has to be a commitment. And that's what's lacking in this culture.
Lawyer Kelly, I've really enjoyed following you on social media. If other people want to follow you, do you welcome that? And how do they do that?
Absolutely. Lawyer Kelly. My favorite social media platforms are Instagram and TikTok. So just go ahead and follow me there. I'm not very active on Twitter.
And in regards to that it's good for your business, I reached out to you. The media in LA reached out to you. So bottom line, you think it's a helpful thing for people to do?
Yes, I think so.
Promote, inform on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, etc.
I basically think if you can do it, do it. But a lot of people don't like social media. So don't do it if you don't want to do it.
You know, everybody, I got to tell you that there's a lot of stuff on social media that I just go right past and is not interesting. But Lawyer Kelly's daily posts are really quite interesting. And as some of you know, I've got a reason why I'm maybe paying a little bit more attention to this topic than other times. But it's really interesting and thought through well, and always done with some humor. And so I highly recommend Lawyer Kelly as someone to follow.